Hey, I'm Mark. Get in here. Take a seat. I should be teaching a class right now. Don't tell my principal. Why? Because I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue. Boise State in the Pac-12. BYU in the Pac-12. Making the Pac-14 to match the 14-team Big Ten, the 14-team SEC, and the 14-team ACC. I've seen this proposal in a lot of people's new realignment videos. And boy, as an Idahoan, as a college football fan, I like the idea. Now, the Pac-14 has a 7-team North Division and a 7-team South Division with Washington State, Oregon State, Utah, BYU, and Boise State in the north, and with the 4 California schools, Arizona State, and Colorado in the south. That's a good, tight conference. I like it. Unfortunately, unless there's a significant change in the status quo, those proposals are dead on arrival. Let's look at the reasons why. Let's go rogue. First of all, BYU. Great pedigree. Long history being with the Pac-10, although not in the Pac-10. Obviously, there's a long history with Utah, the Holy War, as members of the Western Athletic Conference and then the Mountain West Conference. 23 conference championships and a national championship in 1984. As the flagship university of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it carries a huge following. And since 2000, against current members of the Pac-12, BYU is 14-23, with a competitive aggregate score against the random Pac-12 school of 25-22. The 0-8 against Utah really hurts. Hey, speaking of the Utes, when the U joined the Pac-12 in 2011, it ended a long-standing relationship with its closest rival, 45 minutes away via I-15. Utah and BYU shared a conference for 90 years, and its efforts to continue the Holy War have not resonated like it has in the past. How many people in Utah are ready for the Holy War to return to the day after Thanksgiving and actually have some meaning? In spite of its competitiveness and its proximity to the University of Utah, there's one thing that keeps BYU from a Pac-12 invitation. That is the school's prohibition of playing games on Sunday. It's the Sabbath, man. As the flagship university of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it upholds the rules and the expectations of the church. That is a non-negotiable. This provision against playing events on Sunday is what kept BYU out of the Pac-12 in 2011. If neither side budges on Sunday games, we'll never see BYU in a Pac-12 or a Pac-14 or a Pac-whatever. The other contender for a Pac-12 team is Boise State. A lot of amateur and even some professional college conference realigners like this idea of lumping Boise in with the Pac-12. Sure, it makes sense regionally. Boise's only a 4-hour drive from the SLC. It's 6 hours to Pullman, 7 hours to Eugene or Corvallis, and it's 8 hours to Seattle. And Boise has a long history of playing the Pac-12 schools, particularly the schools of the Pac-12 North. Since 2000, the Broncos are 13-9 against the Pac-12, with wins over Washington State, Oregon State, Arizona State, and Utah. Boise State beats a random Pac-12 team by an aggregate score of 30-26. Unfortunately, there are quite a few things about Boise that don't make it a good fit for the Pac-12. Let's take a look. Number 1, tradition. Boise State was founded as a junior college in 1932. The school won a junior college national championship in 1958. It made the move to a 4-year school in 1968 and won a Division I AA national championship in 1980. They finally made the move to 1A in 1996. And in spite of its success, Boise doesn't have a true history with any conference, certainly not the Pac-12. Its biggest rival was the University of Idaho, but they haven't played since Boise State joined the Mountain West in 2010, and since then, Idaho's been relegated to the Big Sky. It certainly doesn't have a rival in the Pac-12. USC has UCLA. Stanford and Cal play for the Smash Trombone. Arizona and Arizona State play for the Territorial Cup. Oregon State play the Civil War. And Washington State play for the Apple Cup. If Boise and BYU were to be added to a Pac-14, that restores the holy war between Utah and BYU and leaves Boise and Colorado as odd men out. Issue 1B, more tradition. USC has Tommy Trojan and that band that plays that droning on anthem the entire game. Stanford has the tree and the band. Oregon has that duck. At Washington, you tailgate on your houseboat before going into the game. One of my favorites is Ralphie, that 2,000-pound buffalo that goes charging across the field before each game. The brilliant minds at Boise State, one side of the stadium yells Boise, the other side of the stadium yells State. It's embarrassing. I've seen high schools do it better. Hey, you know who has the most awesome fans? Korean baseball. Those guys are nuts. 40,000 people all in a stadium singing together the same song and dancing to it. That's on my bucket list. Duhan Bears, baby. The student section. At Utah, they're called the Muss. At Cal, they wear those cool-looking blue and gold rugby shirts. I'm not even sure where the Boise State students sit. See, Boise's a commuter school. Students go to class and then they go home. It doesn't seem there's a lot of on-campus students that end up going to the games on Saturday. Issue 2, the stadium. Albertson Stadium in Boise holds 36,000 and change. It's tiny compared to the Pac-12's Husky Stadium in Seattle, which holds 71,000, the LA Coliseum, which holds 78,000, and the Rose Bowl, which seats 91,000. Boise's expanded capacity by adding seats to the south end zone and then enclosing the north end zone, blocking the view of the river and the foothills. A few years ago, Boise built a new stadium for their track team, leaving space in Albertson Stadium between the stands and the field. This leaves room to dig down, lower the stadium floor about 100 feet, and add, about 10,000 seats. Problem is that 48,000 people aren't going to be showing up for Boise State games every Saturday. The school struggles on some Saturdays to fill the current 36,000 seat stadium. Texas A&M, Auburn, Michigan, well, they're not coming to play at Boise State's little micro stadium. The school will probably draw 25,000 for Troy and for Portland State, and maybe sell out for Wyoming and Hawaii. Maybe. That's not good optics. Issue 3, the market size. Of course, the payoff is not at the gate, the payoff is on TV. USC and UCLA, they share the nation's number 2 TV market in LA. The Bay Area is the 6th largest. Phoenix is 11, Seattle's 13th, Denver is 17th, Portland is 22, and the SLC is number 30. And Boise is Buffalo, Pensacola, Fresno, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Waco. Oh, here, 102 between Fort Smith, Arkansas, and Davenport, Iowa. There are less than 1 million people in the Boise metro area. On any given Saturday in the fall, you can see those little car flags flying. About half of them for Boise State, but a fourth of them for U of I, and a fourth of them are for BYU. Issue 4, recruiting. Boise State doesn't recruit much of Idaho. In fact, only about 8 or 10 athletes come out of Idaho with Division I scholarships every year. Boise gets a lot of its kids from Southern California. Most of them are 3-star athletes that got passed over by one or the other Pac-12 school. Boise now in the Pac-12? Well, now USC, UCLA, they lose some of those 4- and 5-star athletes that they would have gotten now going to Boise. Number 5, academia. I got my master's degree in history from Boise State, but I would have to go somewhere else to get my doctorate. The programs offered by Boise State are pretty limited. The engineering department is pretty good. It is the only university in the United States that offers a degree in raptor biology. Clever girl. No, not those raptors. Yes, eagles, falcons, and hawks, oh my. But it falls short of what the Pac-12 schools advertise themselves as. The Pac-12 Conference is dedicated to developing the next generation of leaders by championing excellence in academics, athletics, and the well-being of our students. Each of the Pac-12 schools are high-powered research institutions. My kids had significant health issues growing up, and our doctors in Idaho referred them to Children's Hospital at the University of Washington, a multi-hundred-million-dollar facility endowed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. My wife currently has her own medical issues, and our doctors once again referred us out of state to the University of Utah Medical Center, next to the $100 million Huntsman's Cancer Institute. No matter how much they try, Boise State can't match the endowments of the Pac-12 schools. The Albertsons and the Simplots have been stretched to their limit, and no one else seems to want to step to the plate to push BSU to the next academic level. Number 6, ease of arrival. I noted earlier the size of their markets. Another thing that broadcasting considers is how they're going to get a TV crew to the site of the game. Los Angeles International Airport is huge. It handles thousands of flights a day, mostly big jets. ESPN has no problem getting their crew and all their equipment to the Coliseum or the Rose Bowl. Seattle, same. Portland, Denver, Salt Lake City, yeah. The Boise State campus is close to BOI, which is about 60 daily arrivals and departures on regional jets. Long story long, Boise's hard to get to if you're coming from LA with your football team, your band, your cheerleaders, your hundreds of boosters, and Tommy Trojan might have a little bit of trouble getting his Gladius through security. What's more, I'm fairly certain that Dez, Reese, Corso, and Herbie don't like changing planes in Denver and flying in coach aboard a Q400 to Boise. Don't get me wrong, I love my city. I love Boise State. I still relish the wins over Oregon and Oklahoma and Oregon and Georgia and Oregon and Virginia Tech. And ultimately though, what we love about living here is what keeps Boise State from jumping to the Pac-12 or any other conference. They're the very things that attract people to this city to live. What puts it at the tops of many magazines and publications' lists of best cities. Boise is a mid-sized city of 250,000 with less than 1 million people in the surrounding area. And it services one of the smallest states in the country. The Pac-12 schools represent the major population centers of the West. And it is in these population centers where education and research is most supported. It's the places with the most smog, the most traffic, the most overcrowding, the most issues that have the need for research provided by these institutions like the University of California, the University of Washington, Colorado University, and the very University of Utah. Not having the problems of traffic, comparatively, smog, overcrowding, and no great need of research in immunology or otolaryngology or kinesiology or you name it-ology, Boise State doesn't have enough concern to address these things. Thus, I have to take my kids to Seattle and my wife to the SLC. That being the case, Boise State will continue to be a good second-level university, created to compete with other second-level universities in the Mountain West Conference. The chances of Boise moving to the Pac-12 are slim. There is no talk of a medical school or a law school for Boise State, and for all of its success on the football field, the Broncos are likely to just have to be content as a second-level nemesis to the major conferences from now through the near future. Maybe I'm wrong, and Boise and BYU will be invited to the new Pac-14. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. I love the conversations that I see in the comments below. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. If I did it right, you did both. You know, I had fun, but I don't quit my day job. And if you're looking through some sports to watch, and KBO is awesome, but you can't watch it 24/7, remember me. I'm Mark Haggard. I'm a history teacher, and I've gone rogue.